So the objectives for today is about navigating the system, the reports available, also how to filter and export reports. So they're the key sort of things we're going to be looking at today. And just to mention, in regards to communication, which some of you have done, is if you do need to, ask me questions, I may ask you questions as well. There's a chat option which allows you to type in there. You can just type your questions, your responses in there, and I'll just review and respond to them. Yeah, so that's pretty much at any point. There's no structure to questions. Feel free to ask questions at any point, and I'm happy to answer your questions if you do have any. So that's pretty much the structure. Just to mention that I will be sharing a copy of this presentation to you all. So I'll send you after this session, so everyone that's arrived will get a copy of that for your reference. Yeah, so you can have that, and I'll also point you to where you can find the guidance. Excellent. So let's start things off with the current reporting system. So for anyone that doesn't know, you may know this already, you may not know this, so let's just see. So in order, in regards to where we are with Sedex Analytics, kind of just giving you a background of where it started from, where the idea came from. And basically we have a current reporting tool, which is Data Monitor. And this is what you as buyers may use to track performance of suppliers. If you have your own sites, so if you are an organization that have your own sites, you can view your own company data. And when we're talking about running reports and when we talk about the data, if you think about Sedex Advance, the information that's entered into Sedex Advance is things like the self-assessment questionnaire and the answers to those self-assessment questionnaire. Also audits as well, and when it comes to adding findings and all of that information that's entered into Sedex Advance, you basically can run a report on that information. So if you wanted to run a report on your supply chain on all of that data, or any one of those sort of key data that I've mentioned, then you can run a report and also filter and add other functionalities in there. So that's Data Monitor, which was launched in 2016. And what it does is great. Yeah, there's so many different things you can collate from the information. But in regards to the state of Data Monitor and in regards to feedback over the years, things like the information is great. What it provides me is excellent, but it's static information. There's not really much it tells me straight away. Yeah, I have to filter, I have to do this before it actually tells me or gives me kind of like the key performance indicators, which some organizations or quite a lot of organizations actually would like to see. And it's not really that interactive. I can't actually do much with this static information apart from sort of filter and run and export the information. Yeah, so we've listened and basically we have a new reporting tool, which is where we have with Sedex Analytics, but just giving you a bit of background behind, where it started from. Data Monitor, that's still available now. Yeah, so that's something that's still current at the moment. Yeah, so Data Monitor will still stay present until the beginning of next year, where it would then be removed and there would only be one reporting tool, which is Sedex Analytics. But we have an old reporting tool, which is this one, Data Monitor, and then today we're discussing the new reporting tool. Moving on to the new reporting tool, let's talk about that. So this is Sedex Analytics. Yeah, so that's the product's name. Yeah, so that's the reporting tool that you'll be able to access. It has improved reporting data to Data Monitor, or improve reporting to Data Monitor, which just basically means there's more you can do in it. There's interactive information that you can click onto. There's in every report, there's like just instant key performance indicators that just give you straightforward information as soon as you go into it, and then you can start filtering to identify what you're interested in, your key points of interest. But something that Data Monitor never did, and we've listened to the feedback, is the fact that it now kind of gives you answers straight away without you having to look at all of this data and then filter it yourself. Also the fact that those reports that I mentioned before, the database that you are maybe familiar with, if you did use a Data Monitor, it's still there. Yeah, so I will be showing you that as well. and the fact that it's available now. Yeah, so I would say, if you're new to it, then that's fine. Access it now. I'll show you where you can access it from. If you're used to Data Monitor, I would say access it now as well. Get familiarized with it, because again, just to remind you, Data Monitor is not going to be removed straight away, as I mentioned. That's going to be removed at the beginning of next year. There will be like communications that's sent out as well, but I would say, get used to it now. Get familiarized with it now. Ask your questions now. Provide your feedback now. If there's something missing, if there's something that it doesn't do that you may have done in Data Monitor, we are taking upon feedback as well. I'll show you where you can put your feedback, and that can be collated and entered. Your feedback is important, and that's what's going to shape this product and make this product adaptable to what what you require. Yeah, but I'll show you near the end where you can put your feedback in as well. So again, it's available now. So let's talk about the functionality. So first off, we're going to start with logging in. Where do you go to actually log in? So when you actually log in on the welcome page, what's new is the fact that there's a new icon. Yeah, so Sedex Analytics. You may have more options than this, but this is just my screenshot of logging in. And just to mention that, again, just to remind you that, if you're familiar with the old reporting tool, you can still access it for the time being until the beginning of next year. And then, it would only just be this product that would be available as the reporting tool. Yeah, just to mention that. And then you can also access it from Sedex Advanced. So when you log into Sedex Advanced, there's a tab that says Analytics. That's it. Yeah, so just clicking on that will take you to the system. Now, just to mention that both both options take you to the same place. So it just depends on whether you're in the welcome page, you can click onto it if that's your what you want to do straight away, or if you're in Sedex Advanced and you say, okay, actually I want to run a report on specific suppliers who's completed the self-assessment questionnaire, or what answers they've entered in the self-assessment questionnaire, you can just go, oh, okay, let me go into Sedex Analytics and run a report on that. Yep. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when you go in, and show you the different things or features you'll see in there. So first of all, again, if you're new to it anyway, if you're not familiar with Data Monitor, then this is going to be new anyway, and you're not no different. If you are familiar with Data Monitor, you're going to see an instant change. It's a change of visuals, and what you're maybe familiar with. And one thing you'll see when you log in is like the sort of home page, or the explore page or explore tab, but there's various tabs on the left. To be honest with you, probably explore and favorites might be the ones you use often. But what you'll see is that each folder, or most of the folders, have like an icon on there, and then you've got the title of the actual folders. Each of these different folders would contain different reports depending on what the title is, and you just got a bit of narrative underneath or description just explaining some information about that. But yeah, on your left you have your tabs. You've got the home tab, you've got the explore tab, you've got favorites. The explore tab is going to contain every report available. Yeah, so that's probably going to be the first place you want to go and access your reports. When you start clicking into reports, you'll see that in the home and recents, there will be the ones like a history of the ones you've clicked onto. And then you can add to favorites. So it could be the fact that once you've added your favorites, you've identified which reports you're going to use on a regular basis. You can then just go into favorites in future and access the actual reports. However, also just to add is that you do have various ways of navigating, which you'll see I'll demonstrate in in this webinar. Yeah. Okay, so I mentioned about the Explore tab. Yeah, so that's the tab that you do actually see when you first go into the system or log into the system, and depending on your membership or who you are as your membership, then it depends on what folders you see. Yeah, so some like suppliers would see some different reports to the buyers, for example, and the same thing for auditors. But yeah, the Explore tab takes you to basically where you can see all your available reports. Now, again, these are kind of like the top level folders, if you will, and clicking into them will take you further into the actual folder. So let me just show you right now. So I've logged in. So I've just changed my screen over just to show you. So I've logged in. You know, I can access it here. I can access Sedex Analytics here. Just to remind you, you know, if I want to sort of still run my regular reports that I'm using at the moment, and at the same time get used to Sedex Analytics, I can. But again, I would say don't leave it till, you know, the last minute. Get familiarized with it now, ask your questions now as soon as possible. So start using it, and then, you know, if something doesn't show or populate, or when you export a report it doesn't show it in the same way, then let us know. And our developers are still working on just making sure that everything is exactly, when you run the reports, it's exactly the same. It's only like little like tweaks or minor tweaks, but again, you know, we've done loads of testing, and there's just some things in regards to like the layout of some of the columns, maybe nothing major. You know, if that's the case for you when you're running reports and you see that, let us know, and again, I'll show you where you can put your feedback. So this is one way you can access Sedex Analytics. In Sedex Advanced, there is a tab. Yeah, so let's say I was using Sedex Advanced, I was running or viewing information on a specific supplier or suppliers, and you know, instead of having to go into each individual one, I can say, okay, let me run a report and just see, you know, information relating to those suppliers' audits, for example. So I can click on analytics, it takes me in, and as mentioned, you have your tabs on the left. Explore tab is the first tab it's going to take you into. You have your you know, your folders here, as mentioned. You know, I can add to favorites anything with the star icon. Basically, if I click onto it, it means this folder now will be in my favorites, so I can just access it from there, for example. If you are clicking, you know, wherever you, depending on where you click the, or make your favorites. So for example, I'm making the folder my favorites, which means that any reports in this folder will now, you know, I can just go straight to my favorites. But, you know, you can do it against reports as well, and I'll show you how that's done. There's a search option, so I can search for reports up here as well. I can type in a keyword, you know, say Q, for example, and find, you know, if I'm, you know, not familiar with navigating, I can just say, okay, instead of going through the different folders and finding what I'm looking for, I can just type it in and search that way. Other things you can do is, you know, let's say you don't want this view. Yeah, so not everyone likes this, might not like this view. So just on the right hand side, you've got toggle view mode. Yeah, or this sort of waffle icon. You can change it to list view, and this is it. Yeah, so it's the same thing, but it's just an easier view. Maybe, you know, if you're familiar with data monitor and you want that same kind of list view, then you can change it to that as well. Yeah, so that's the you know, first sort of screen you'll see when you log in. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation. For anyone that's just arrived, this is pretty much the structure. I'll be using kind of like the PowerPoint presentation to explain like the functionalities, then I'll switch over to the demonstration to show you exactly how it looks and so forth. So the folders, as I mentioned, there's various different folders depending on your membership. Now for buyers, you got, you know, one of the sort of main reports you probably would use is this one, My Supply Chain, and this top level folder contains reports. I think there's about 5 or 6 reports in there relating to suppliers. Yeah, so if you want to run reports on your supply chain, this is the one you would use. But there's other reports as well, like if you do have your own internal sites, you can run reports on your site's information. The My Company reports and the My Supply Chain reports are very similar. It's just the data that it's actually looking at is different. You know, it'll be your own sites and not your supplier sites. You can save your actual reports, which are known as workbooks. You can save them as well and identify what folder they'll be saved into when you add your filters. There's reports based on blind data. So there's a report In this folder, there's a report which is available to all users relating to non-compliances across all countries, like basically using our database of information to run sort of generic reports that's not allocated to information that's linked to you. So it's basically all Sedex's database and just showing you like the total of non-compliances across countries for all suppliers in our database. If you do have any customer specific SAQ allocated, then this is something that's a request that is done typically by, well, it would be by the buyers. So the buyers would speak to their account managers to get that added. So if there is, a specific questionnaire, your own questionnaire that you want to sort of include in the system, if you do have that, then basically you could run a report on that information as well. So yeah, there's various other reports that you can run, and this is just a list of some of those reports, or all of those reports. So again, I mentioned about the search option. So you can type in a keyword and quickly find the report you're looking for. So you don't necessarily need to go through the folders and so forth, or add to your favorites. You can just type it in at the top. And the search icon is available in the different screens that you go into. So you can do that at any time. So when it comes to accessing the report, so let's take a look at that. So again, I mentioned about the Explore tab. This is the first tab that kind of that's selected when you first log in, and the Explore tab is going to show you every report folder available. Yeah, so all of your reports, even if especially if you've never clicked onto it before, this is where you want to go and find the specific report you're looking for. Again, there's various other ways you can find them, but if you want to go through the folders, you can. So when it comes to, if you are navigating the folders, yes, if you're navigating through the folders, again, I mentioned about the Explore tab. That's the first sort of tab you want to go into, which shows you all the reports. Now, basically, this is just to explain, especially if you're new to, logging into Sedex Analytics, the fact that if you're going through the report folders, there's kind of like 3 clicks before you get to your actual report. So you have the top level folder, which is the report folder. When you go into that folder, there might be multiple reports, and basically they're subfolders. So it will basically be the report's name. Yeah, there's some, especially when I go into the supply chain report or my supply chain report, there's like 5 or 6 reports in there. They would all have a subfolder with the report name. You then click that subfolder, and it will show you the different views available for that report. Yeah, so basically each report has two different views, which I'll explain very shortly. But basically the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that one of the reports that you can access is the supplier tracker, which is a very good report which shows you sort of overview information in your supply chain. So if you want to access that report and you're in Explore tab, there's 3 clicks to get there. So you click the My Supply Chain folder, there's a sub folder or the report's name, which is My Supplier Tracker. You click onto that, that's going to then take you into that specific report folder. And then there are 2 views for My Supplier Tracker. Yeah. So the navigation is, 3 clicks before you can get to your actual report information and see the report. However, there's other ways you can navigate. You don't need to do it this way. I'm just explaining the fact that, if you click on My Supply Chain, you might be wondering, okay, where's the report? I click on this, I'm still not in the report. It's just one more click before you can actually get into the report. So let's talk about the different views. I mentioned that there's 2 possible views for basically every report has multiple views. Yeah. And it's 2 views. Yeah, so each report has 2 views, and the names of the views are dashboard and extract. Yeah, so I'll explain what the difference is. But first of all, when you do go into that report folder, so for example, My Supplier Tracker, you're going to see 2 views available for that specific report. So you're going to see a My Suppliers Tracker dashboard. This is the dashboard. It doesn't say dashboard in the narrative, but it is a dashboard. And then if it's an extract, it would say extract in the title. So this one says tracker extracts. I know this is the extract. Again, I haven't explained what the difference is, and I will be explaining in a moment. But the key thing at this point is, how do I identify which one's a dashboard, which one's an extract? Apart from just clicking onto it and taking you into it, and you'll see what the difference is. You know, before you click onto it, you can tell this one, if it doesn't say anything after it, just says the title of the report, dashboard. If it says extract next to it, it's the extract. So what's the difference? So dashboard, when you're in the dashboard, you're going to see clearly presented data in the form of maps and graphs. So some dashboards, some report dashboards is going to have graphs in it. Some of them have both. Some of them just have maps and KPI or key performance indicators, basically easy to view information. So it gives you kind of answers straight away instead of just showing you static information. It's interactive. You can do various different functionalities, which I'll be showing you shortly as well. So user-friendly filters, but just by clicking on specific areas, that's going to filter that specific area, for example, and information that you could look into further or drill into or drill down into. Yeah. So how you know when you're in the dashboard, or what that actually looks like, you're going to see, some of them have maps in there, some of them have just graphs in there, or both, as I mentioned before, and then all of them have some form of KPI at the top, which just kind of gives you instant answers, which you can then filter if you need to. So we'll be looking at this as well. Yeah. But this is what a dashboard looks like. There's various different variations of them. And then when it comes to the extract view looks like this. Now, basically, anyone that is familiar with Data Monitor or the old reporting tool, the extract is in that format with the columns in the same order. Yeah, we made sure that they're in the same order as they were in Data Monitor. So if you are used to running reports and using it for external systems that you may use, you're still going to have that report format in the same way. So basically every report has a dashboard. Yeah, when you're filtering in the dashboard, you then have the extract to view, and you can export that information into Excel and use that for external use. So keeping that same functionality that you may be familiar with from the old reporting tool. Yeah, anyone that's new, again, you can download this information into, or export the information into Excel. Yeah. And it basically have columns and rows, and what you're going to find with the extract, that it includes more information that's in the dashboard. Yeah, you have your dashboard to view sort of the KPIs, and then if you want to know more information behind it, for example, for a specific supplier, you can go into the extract and see that detailed information, and then download it and export it as well. So when you're in the dashboard, to get to the extract, so you can actually get to the extract from the dashboard as well. It's known as data sheets. It doesn't say extract there. You can access it from data sheets. So basically, add in your filters, and I'll show you how to add filters and so forth. You can do that, and then once you're happy with that, I actually want to now sort of see that information in the extract view. You can just click data sheets, and then download if you need to. Okay, so let's talk about the navigation buttons. Actually, let me just switch it over and show you, the navigation or getting into the report. So from here, I'm in the Explore tab. Again, I can search for this specific report I'm looking for if I know the name of it, for example, or type in a keyword from that report. But this one, so if I go into my supply chain, just clicking on that folder, and the one I'm going to go into for the sort of start of the demonstration is my supplier tracker. So again, I've clicked one, I've done one click. I'm now in the folder of that, or the top level sort of folder. So I'm in my supply chain. The report I want to get into is this one, so my supplier tracker. So again, and then the final click, just to remind you that there's two views. So there's a supplier, so the dashboard, and then the extract. And then clicking on the dashboard, I can click on the extract as well if I want to, but basically there's 3 clicks to get to the actual folder or just one click if you can find the folder in the search. Yeah, so this is the dashboard view. I can get to the extract by clicking data sheets. Now when you go into any reports, it's going to instantly have, it's going to basically show you every information relating to it, and then you can filter within the report to to sort of isolate and show the information you want to see for your specific sites. Yeah, so this is how you navigate and get to the actual folders. And now I'm going to move on to talking about the buttons and functionalities and what you can do. Get you used to that. So when you're in a dashboard, at the top of this screen, what you're going to see is some buttons. So there's various different buttons that you can use or you may use. So you've got your undo, your revert, which basically is undo all. So if you've made any sort of changes to the filters and you want to just go back to the original state, in regards to the filters, so removing all the filters, then you can revert. If you want to sort of undo or redo the last change, then you can by clicking the redo button. And then there's just a refresh button that you may use, like if you add filters in the report, sometimes, especially if you've not sort of used it for maybe like 5 minutes, like for example, if it's been idled for 5 minutes, you may want to just click refresh within analytics, so the refresh button, not the browser refresh, to refresh your filters that you've entered in there. So that might not be used on a regular basis, but it's there, and that's what it's used for, just to sort of refresh your filters that you've added into that report. So they're the buttons at the top. When it comes to the maps, so any reports or any dashboards that has the maps in there, you're going to see some sort of map buttons that do various things. So the map buttons, you can zoom, you can search, sorry, on the actual map. So you can type in a keyword or country name, for example, and it will sort of move the map to that region or area that you've typed in. You can zoom in, zoom out. Zoom in, zoom out is also, I use it basically on your mouse. If you've got a mouse on your PC or laptop, there's that little roller dial sort of option in the middle of between the two, left click and right click. If you've got that, then you can just use that up and down to sort of zoom in, zoom out. The home or house button basically reverts back to the original zoom level that it was at from as default. And then there's this play button or arrow icon, which has additional sort of map functionalities, which is to do with like selections of the regions on the maps. And basically with that, when you sort of hover your mouse over it, you're going to see these different icons, and they do different types of things, like interactions with the map. So you can select in different ways. You can square select, circle select, and sort of draw your own shape around specific regions. So yeah, they're the different sort of options that you have in there. And also just to mention, when you are on the map, if you want to, select individual sort of areas, then you can by just holding control and left clicking on your mouse. So I'll be showing you that as well to show you how to do that and how that looks. When it comes to exporting reports in the extract, so when you've added your filters, when you go into extract view, and you can see all your filtered information, and this is what you want. There's a download option. You basically just click that option and you'll get a pop-up screen. Again, I'll be showing you just very shortly. And the option you want to select is cross tab. Yeah, so there's a few options you may see. Cross tab is the option you want to select, and that will download it into CSV or into Excel for you to use in external systems. Also, you can add filters or save. You can add your filters, sorry. So filters come in the shape or form of drop-down menus, depending on in the dashboard that you might have drop-down menus or options that you can sort of update. So for example, this one allows me to enter or change this range. At the moment, it's saying days until expire or lapse. I can change it to 60 if I wanted to, for example. Same thing with SAQ completion, I can change this. So there's various sort of options of filters at the top. You have KPI filters as well. So some of the reports have these interactive information that you can click onto. Any sort of filters that you add, the whole report is going to update. Yeah, so when you start clicking onto filters and adding filters, they will update. Now, what you're going to see with the map, that would update as well if you've clicked on sort of different areas within the KPI or filters. The map is also a filter as well. So let's say your interest was in Europe and you clicked on all the sort of areas in or countries in Europe, then it's only going to show you, and also the KPI information would update accordingly and show you information relating to the sites you've selected. So this is kind of like your interactive filters that you add in the dashboard, and then you go to the extract to download it. Yeah, so it's interactive filters that you can use or remove if you need to. And then, like I said, when you go to data sheets, that's the extract, and that's taking you to the extract view for you to download the actual report. And this icon here, which I'll show you as well, allows you to save your filters. So you can give that filter that you've created a name, save it. So in future, you just basically go back in your dashboard and load that filter. Yeah, so you don't need to always add those filters all the time. I mentioned about the search bar, so that's at the top. We'll be looking at that as well. You can add favorites in there. So any reports or folders you see the star icon, clicking onto it, it will change solid, and then basically that will be in your favorites tab. So in future, you just go straight to your favorites tab. Yeah, and then we're going to move on to looking at the we're going to be looking at some of the reports. So again, we won't be able to look at every report available, but we can look at some of them. Yeah, so some of the sort of interesting ones. And again, the key thing from today is for you to understand the functionalities of it, and then the true learning is when you actually start using it and asking questions about that. So let's take a look at the one I'm already in, which is the My Suppliers Tracker. So this is a good overview report which shows you total number of sites in supply chains, number of active sites, sites due to expire or lapse in 30 days, number of sites with published audits, total number of non-compliances, SAQ completion percentage for sites. And I've just put in here as reference as well the report location and where you can find the actual report. So just a question actually from Anu, how can I get data of non-compliances of all my suppliers, not just the number of suppliers, sorry, not just the number of non-compliances, but details of what it is? Sure, I'll show you where that is. Yeah, so I can use that as part of one of the demonstrations for one of the reports. And then, and is it possible to get graphics, or do I need to do them myself in Excel? Good question. Yeah, I think you can get graphics as in, if you're talking about graphics as in like a bar chart and things like that, then you would have to do that yourself from Excel, if that makes sense. So exporting it into Excel allows you to then have that flexibility of removing the columns you don't need, for example, getting rid of the data you don't need, and then sort of creating a I forgot the word that it's called in. There's a tab in Excel, if you're familiar with it, that allows you to generate like your reports. Generate like a bar chart, pie chart, and so forth. But yes, you would have to export it and then create it from Excel. And the thing is as well, it's not like interactive information. Like you wouldn't be able to do anything in the because I think you can download it like as a presentation, but I don't think you can actually do anything with that information. So you can download it as PowerPoint, like for example the dashboard, but there's not really much you can do with it. So I would recommend download it into Excel, and then you have the freedom of creating some form of chart and graph in there. Okay, so the first report we're going to look at is the My Suppliers Tracker. So I'm already in there. So this is a good report which shows you an overview. Just to remind you that when you do go into the reports, it does show you everything straight away. And then now I can start filtering. So let's say, key KPI information for the sites. It's showing me there's a total of 41 sites. There is 33 active sites. Does anyone know why there's a difference? So we've got 41 and then 33 active sites. Why would there be a difference? Yeah, so the difference is the fact that there's some sites that have expired, basically. Their membership has expired or lapsed. So they're no longer active, which is why there's a difference. So there's a total of 41, and then the 33 that are active, which means you can see their data. So any suppliers that have expired, if their membership has expired, again, this is, you can run reports on those suppliers that have lapsed, and maybe sort of contact them to get them to renew their membership. The thing is that if they have lapsed, then you wouldn't be able to run reports on their information. So you wouldn't be able to see the non-compliances, their SAQ information, until they have renewed their membership. Right. So it's important that they are, if there's any suppliers that you want to see, and you want to see their information and they have lapsed, then you probably want to get in contact with them and ensure that they do renew their membership. So the KPI information, let's say I'm only interested in, it says minimum of suppliers that have, suppliers that have completed a minimum of 95%. It says there's 13. If I click onto that KPI, the report is going to update accordingly. So it's going to show me, when it comes to the site information, those 13. And then when it comes to audit findings, that updates as well. And then when it comes to the map information, that updates as well. So I can then see, the locations of those sites and their information. I can, to unselect a filter, because when it's selected, it shows you this sort of blue outline or blue box. Clicking on it again kind of takes away the filter. If you're ever unsure, what I would say is just click revert to just go back to the original setting, and that will just remove everything on there. Again, just to remind you that there's filters at the top. So you've got your customer information, so you can change that. This is only in relation to if you do have subsidiaries. So if you do have multiple sort of regions and organizations, and they're added into the selected platform, then you can choose, if you don't want to see all of your subsidiaries, then you can choose individual ones, just deselect and select accordingly. I'm going to cancel that. You can change some of the filters you can change. So let's say I'm only interested in the ones that have completed the SAQ by 100%, so you can update that. And then I don't know if you've seen the change, but it did update here. So it just now changed from 13 to 10 to tell me that there's 10 sites that have completed 100% of the SAQ. So there's various filters at the top. You can go into the map as well. So map filters, you can, you got the options on your left here, as I mentioned in my presentation. But you can hover the mouse and shows you how many sites, so the actual site country, and then how many sites there is. You can select individually just by sort of clicking on, holding control, and then clicking on the region, and the report is updating as we speak. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm just in a test account, so it's just not always stable information. Let's try that again. So I've just selected a specific region here, and the report is updated accordingly. So the information updates accordingly, but you can hold control and select multiple regions. You do have to hold control to select multiple individual ones. If I did click onto another one, it's just going to remove this one and highlight the one that I've selected. They're not removed. You can still sort of see the faded outline of them. I can deselect it, so unselect it, and then that kind of reveals everything again. I can select in various different ways. There's a selection tool, you can use a square sort of area or circle radius to, circle like so. Let's just show you. So I can do a circle selection like that and just highlight, the ones I'm interested in. Yeah, so you can do that. Or I can use, draw a selection over a specific region in a shape of my own, so freeform shape, and it will select those, and again the report would update accordingly. Let's say that this is the filter I want. I want to use this is my interest all the time. So when I do log in, I want this filter added. I can basically click this. Sorry, I click this icon. This is the filter icon. So when I hover the mouse, it shows that it's a filter. clicking on that, then just gives me a list of ones that I've saved already. But I can save, save filter, give it a name, save it, and then that'll be in there. And then in future, I just basically select and load my previous, my filter. So just highlighting it and then clicking load. I can delete them as well by clicking delete. So this filter, I want to download it. So just to mention, this eye icon just explains the functionalities I've explained as well in regards to the map. So you've got that there as a reminder, and then data sheets, just to show you what that looks like. You have, a list of basically all of the information. So what's the detailed information relating to my selection? I can now see it. So this is very similar. If you're familiar with the old reporting tool, this is the same layout, with the columns and rows of data. I can see. So you see the customer information, supplier name, depending on the report you're in, you're going to see things about non-compliances or self-assessment questionnaire details. And this is where you want to go, I think, in regards to Anu. This is where you probably want to go to find that information, but I'll show you the report where you'll see more detailed information about not just the number of non-compliances, because this one, because it's an overview report, it's only just going to show you, the numbers of the non-compliances and so forth, but not the detailed information related to, what was the issue and category and so forth. Yeah. But again, the extract is where you want to go, to see more detailed information relating to the report. To download it, so let's say I want to download this. This is the information I want. Click the download button, and then this pop-up screen appears. I just click crosstab. Yeah, download it. So crosstab is the one you want to click onto, which downloads it into Excel. And then just to show you what that looks like. And just to show you that, just basic, information, and it's got all the data out, it's filtered. Yeah, and then I can use this in my own sort of way externally. So that's that. So this is again one of the reports. Just to mention, you have when you do go into dashboards or the extract, you still have a search option, just the magnifying glass here. So you can search for reports from here. I can add this as favorites. Let's say I want this extract as a favorite. Sorry, if I want to go to my favorites, apologies. If I want to go to my favorites, then I can, from this point. If I want to add it as favorite, which I've already added here, but it would be like this first. Let's say I want this extract as a favorite, then I can, make it solid, and then it's now added to my favorite. So when I do go in here, I can access it from there as well, or from the home, the favorites on the home page. So yeah, this is again one of the reports. Let's take a look at another one. So I guess a good one to look at is the My Suppliers Audits and Findings. And I guess hopefully, Anu, this might explain a bit more about your question. You can let me know though, I'll show you the report and you can let me know whether this is what you was looking for or not. But this is a good report when it comes to seeing things like the audit nature per site, total number of audits and findings, most common findings. If you want to look at the breakdown of like non-compliances, number of new or carried over non-compliances, so there's quite a lot of detailed information. And again, this report is solely looking at audits. If you think about the My Supplier Tracker, that's kind of like an overview, but there are various other reports which is going to show you only information related to the data you want to see. So audits, findings, and SAQ information. There is specific reports for that. So where you can access this report is in the My Supplier chain, My Suppliers Audits Findings. So let's go there now. So another way of navigating. So I've shown you the the fact that you can go to the home page, you can access the reports from there. You can go into your favorites, you can access the reports from there. You can use the search field and access the reports from there. So if I typed in, audits like that, oops, that's not how you spell audits, there you go. So I can access it from there. I've also added it as my favorites, but you can get to the report from there. Another way you can navigate is using this breadcrumb trail at the top. So I'm in the extract at the moment. There's my supply chain. If I go back to my supply chain, that would take me to the folder. So just again, another way of navigating entirely up to you which one you use. But as you can see, there's multiple ways you can navigate and get familiar with the system. So the report I'm going to go into is the My Suppliers Audits and Findings. Just clicking that one. Now this report actually has two types of reports, and because there's two types of reports, there's going to be four things you can click onto. So just to remind you that every report has two views, yeah. So you always have a dashboard, and we can tell as it just says the title of the report, and then the extract. So it says extract or data extract, which this one says. So this is the audit. So these two are the same sort of data that it's looking at, it's just different views. And then you have findings, which has this dashboard, and then also the extract. So again, two different views. So we're going to go into audits first and just show you what that looks like. Again, a very similar view to what we saw in the supplier tracker, but you have your KPI information relating to the audit. So how many, the different types of audits by nature, the total of audits and findings, as you can see. Again, clickable sort of information, or even just hovering over it gives you data as well. So this gives me a breakdown of the findings. This one shows me the total. So just hovering the mouse kind of gives you a bit more context to the information. We've got our filters at the top, where we can filter the information. So let's say, for example, I want to change the date range. Actually, let's change. So it's only showing me a year worth of information. Let's say only this year. Let's say, let me change that to, let's say in 2018. Let me change that to 19 and update that. Yeah, and the report basically updates accordingly. Now, let's say I'm only interested in full audits. Yeah, so I can change the audit nature. This drop-down menu, I can untick all, and then just select the specific ones I'm interested in. I'm only interested in one, so full initial audit. Click apply, and then that updates accordingly. Not just the KPI updated, the actual map has updated as well. So it's showing me the 6 and the location of those 6 sites and where they are. Yeah. So this is, again, my filtering. I can filter even more by just selecting key sites from here if I wanted to. I can go into, if this is the one I want to use in future, then I can just click the filters icon, give it a name, and for some reason it's asked me to log in. Let's do that again. I'm not sure where it's asking me to log in there, but the filter icon will appear, or the options would appear as I showed you before. So you'll be able to save it, give it a name, and also load it as well if you've saved it. I can go into data sheets from here as well, and this is going to show me the extract of that information. So this shows me more detailed information relating to the specific audits. So I think the question from Anu was, how can I get data of non-compliances of all my suppliers, not just number of non-compliances, but of what it is? Then in audits and findings is where you would go, but you would need to go in the extract to see it. Yeah, so the extract shows you, as you can see, the audit scope. I'm in the audit at the moment, but if you go into findings, which I'll show you very shortly, you're going to see more details about that, about your suppliers, whoever you've filtered. If you've not filtered, it's going to show you everything. If you have, then it's just going to show you that, those key information that you want to see. Yeah, so this is where you would go. It needs to be the extract of the report to see the detailed information. Just to remind you, if you need to download it, the download button is just there. Just clicking that option, it would show you a pop-up window. Now, just to mention as well, a little tip from me is that in some cases, not all the time, but in some cases, is the fact that you won't see, the option crosstab, which is how you actually download the report, is not always available. So a tip is to just click anywhere in the report. I like to just click here at the top of the sort of report itself, and then click download again, and then it will be available. Yeah, it's just something that happens from time to time. It just needs to register. Just click somewhere in the report, and then click download and go back to the option. It should be available for you to download. Yeah. So that's just a little tip. And I've actually added that in the guidance. So there is a guidance that you can access, and I've put that in there as well. Yeah. So the other sort of variation of this report is the findings report. Again, just going back to the folder. So I click in the findings dashboard. So this one is a different type of view of report. It's more of a graph and chart of information. But this one again has its filters. So you have your filters at the top, which you can change. You have this section here. So each section has its own sort of title, as you can see. This one's the common findings, and it's looking at the moment at the top 10. I can change that if I want to. So you can change the top 10. I can identify whether I just want to look at, in this section here, which is a filter. I can unselect it and say I'm only interested in, non-compliances, and apply that in there. And then when you do apply, and that's added eventually, the report would update accordingly. Yeah. So again, my test account, I think I might actually be might need to relog in again. But yeah, the report would update accordingly. Let me just refresh my screen and see if that updates. Let's refresh up here. So I'm going to come out of that one. But yeah, this is, the different reports available. Again, I've just gone into the My Supply Chain, and there's some, useful reports you can view. Yeah, you're welcome. That's okay. So other reports that you can view are things like your suppliers that have expired. If they have lapsed, the membership has lapsed, you can run a report based on that. You can see the different regions and where there's any trends, for example, when you're viewing the actual information. But you have clear KPI information in the dashboard. You can filter, you can then, export that report. And there is a option which is contact sheet. You can generate a contact sheet to get in contact with the list of lapsed suppliers if necessary. Yeah, so that's a good report to run. Other reports that you have is My Supplier Site Workers. So this is a good report based on identifying or seeing the amount of employees you have or across different sites by gender, also by their their contract, whether they are agency, home workers, permanent, and so forth. So you can run various reports on there. Again, information is clickable, and you can filter the data, and the report would update accordingly. You can then download it for CSV, for example, as well. So that's a good report to run. So total number of workers, percentage of workers by gender, worker types, gender majority as well by type. So that's a good one to look at. Other reports you can run is the reports which is for the SAQ, so suppliers SAQ analysis. So basically you can run reports to see the sites that have granted access to the SAQ, the ones that haven't granted access, also the ones that have completed the SAQ and the percentage of completion, which you can change, and also things like the answers as well. You can see what answers they've applied to the questions. You can filter it by question. If your interest was only health and safety questions, then you can filter it and then see the suppliers that have answered those questions, for example. Other reports you can run is the single supplier sites overview. So this is a good one just to look at a specific supplier as opposed to just seeing all suppliers. Yeah, so other things you can run or other reports you can run is list of your own Sedex users, sorry, within your organization. So this is a good report to run to see if there's any employees that may not have access or doesn't need access, they might have left. You can run a report on that. You have the global non-compliance breakdown as well, which is just blind data and looking at all Sedex's sort of database. So the breakdown of non-compliances by country across our whole database, for example, might be a good report to run. And then the SLCP reports, which is the Social Labour Convergence Programme. If any of your suppliers are part of that, you can run a report based on their completed assessments. So they're, the key reports that you can run. Pretty much most of the reports you can run. The key thing really is the fact that, wouldn't be able to go through every report in this session. the main thing is, what are the functionalities? Let's take a look at some of the key reports. And the true learning now is for you to start using it, start asking us questions. Yeah. So in regards to resources, you can find resources and guidance on Sedex e-learning. I will be sending you a post email, which is going to include more information about that, and also the guidance documents that I will be providing to you. But you can access it from Sedex e-learning as well. And then the other thing just to mention is about feedback. So anyone that's starting to use the actual reports, if you do have any feedbacks, any thoughts, any things you want to add to it, you know, or missing anything that you think would be nice to have, you can let us know. So I'm just going to go to the website. So on sedexglobal.com, you have our services. And then if you click Sedex Analytics in the sub tab, if you scroll right down to the bottom, there's a section there about how can I feedback on the new Sedex Analytics platform. If you click in there, the form is a link, and then you can put your information in there as well.